Commander Doyen stood at the viewport of his flagship, watching the stars shimmer in the distance. After 50 years of being part of the Galactic Council, humanity had finally been invited to something important. His government called it a breakthrough, a chance to prove Earth deserved respect among the 27 species that ruled the galaxy. He did not trust it. The message had come from Ambassador Telvac, a crystalline being from the Velkath Empire. The Velkath controlled most of the Council's military power. They looked down on emotional species, especially humans. They called Earth's people the mammals like it was an insult. Still, orders were orders. Earth's entire defense fleet, 23 warships, had traveled to Kepler Station in neutral space for these security negotiations. Doyen's daughter, Hannah, pressed her face against another viewport nearby. At 17, she was too young to understand the weight of this moment. She had begged to come, wanting to see history being made. He had given in, thinking it would be safe. Now, looking at her excited face, he felt a cold knot in his stomach. "Dad, look at all those council ships," Hannah said. "There must be hundreds of them." Too many ships, Doyen thought. Far too many for a simple meeting. The human fleet had powered down their weapons as required by protocol. They sat docked at the massive station like sitting ducks. Thousands of human diplomats and their families had already boarded Kepler Station for the talks. Doyen had argued against bringing civilians, but the politicians wanted to show Earth's commitment to peace. The communication channel opened. Ambassador Telvac's face appeared on the main screen. His crystalline features reflected light in sharp, cold angles. "Commander Doyen, we are ready to begin negotiations. Please send your delegation to Conference Hall 7. Something in Telvac's voice made Doyen's instincts scream. He opened his mouth to respond when his sensor officer shouted, "Commander! Council ships are powering weapons." Doyen spun toward his tactical display. Red warning lights filled the screen. Every Council warship surrounding them had armed their weapons. Before he could give orders, the first missiles launched, all ships emergency power. "Get us out of here." Doyen screamed into the comm. It was too late. The first human ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. And another. The Council fleet fired without warning, without mercy. Docked human vessels had no chance to defend themselves. Their shields were down. Their weapons were offline. They died by the thousands in seconds. Doyen's ship shook as nearby explosions sent shockwaves through space. "Get those shields up," he ordered. His crew worked frantically at their stations. Hannah grabbed his arm. "Dad, what's happening?" He did not answer. Through the viewport, he watched a transport ship try to escape. It was full of families, full of children. A Council warship fired, and the transport became a brief star of destruction. Doyen's heart turned to ice. "Sir, Kepler Station is targeting us," his weapons officer shouted. The station itself opened fire, not just on the ships, but on its own docking bays where human diplomats waited. Doyen watched in horror as sections of the station exploded, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. 12,000 civilians died in those first moments. "Full power to engines," Doyen commanded. "Get us to jump distance." His flagship lurched forward, shields barely holding against the barrage. Around them, the entire human fleet burned. Only 3 ships managed to break away. Captain Minho's merchant vessel, a medical frigate, and a science ship. Everyone else was gone. 47,000 military personnel, 12,000 civilians, dead in less than 5 minutes. As they reached jump distance, every screen in the galaxy lit up with the same message. Ambassador Telvac's face appeared, speaking to trillions of beings across known space. "The Galactic Council hereby declares humanity a rogue species. They have committed crimes of resource hoarding and unauthorized military expansion. Earth has 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face complete extinction." Lies. All lies. Doyen knew the truth. Humanity's rapid advancement had frightened the Council. Humans adapted too quickly, learned too fast, and refused to accept their place at the bottom. So the Council decided to eliminate the threat before it grew stronger. His ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the massacre behind. Doyen turned to check on Hannah. She was gone. "Where is my daughter?" he shouted. A junior officer's face went pale. "Sir, she was scheduled to transfer to the transport ship this morning. To visit the station with the other families, the transport ship, the one he had watched explode." Doyen's legs gave out. He caught himself on a console staring at the empty viewport. His daughter was dead. His fleet was destroyed. Humanity had been betrayed by the very alliance they had trusted for 50 years. the comm channels filled with desperate messages from Earth. The Council had given them 72 hours, but the bombardment began immediately. Within 48 hours, 3 million colonists on Earth's moon base died under orbital fire. Mars was next. The colony cities burned under plasma bombardment. Earth's civilian government tried to negotiate. The Council ignored them. 8 billion people remained on Earth when the main attack began. Cities vanished under energy weapons. Oceans boiled. Continents cracked. The lucky ones died instantly. Doyen watched it all from the bridge of his ship. He felt nothing. The grief had burned away, leaving only ice. His hands stopped shaking. His voice became steady. When the other surviving captains called for surrender, he cut them off. "Listen to me," he said, his voice cold and hard. "We cannot win a conventional war. We have 15 ships against their thousands. But we can make them pay. We can make them bleed. We can show them what happens when you try to exterminate humanity." Captain Minho's face appeared on screen. "What are you suggesting?" Doyen's eyes held no mercy. "War. Not the civilized kind they're used to. The savage kind. The kind where there are no rules, no limits, no honor. They wanted to know what humans are capable of. We're going to teach them." On the tactical display, Earth burned. 2 billion survivors fled to underground shelters. Another billion scattered across hidden bases in dead systems and asteroid fields. The rest were gone, turned to ash by Council weapons. Doyen looked at the image of Ambassador Telvac that still played on every channel. The crystalline alien spoke of bringing order to the galaxy, of eliminating dangerous species. "Dangerous," Doyen whispered. "You have no idea." He turned to his remaining crew. "Set course for the Kuiper Belt. Find every human ship that survived. Gather every scientist, soldier, and civilian who can fight. The Council thinks we're broken. They think we'll surrender or die quietly." His voice dropped to a growl. "They're wrong." The ship jumped into darkness. Behind them, Earth's fires could be seen from space. Ahead lay nothing but revenge. Doyen did not pray for his daughter. He did not weep. He simply calculated how many Council species would pay for what they had done. The Council had made one fatal mistake. They assumed humanity would break when pushed to the edge. They did not understand that humans were most dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. 6 months had passed since the betrayal. Dr. Hyeri stood in the makeshift laboratory aboard Haven Station, staring at test results that made her stomach turn. She was creating weapons designed to kill billions. The woman who once dedicated her life to healing was now engineering death. She remembered her research team on the moon. 23 brilliant scientists gone in the first bombardment. Their last message had been a simple goodbye before the Council weapons turned the base to glass. Hyeri had not slept properly since. "Doctor, the commander wants to see you," a young officer said from the doorway. Hyeri found Doyen in the command center. The man looked like he had aged 10 years and 6 months. His daughter's photo sat on his desk, the only personal item he kept. He never looked at it. "How many survivors do we have?" she asked. 3 billion total, Doyen replied without emotion. 2 billion underground on Earth. Another billion scattered across hidden facilities. We have 15 functional warships, maybe 300 fighters. He pulled up a holographic display. The Council has launched cleansing operations. They're hunting down every human settlement they can find. Hyeri watched the reports. Council patrols were executing captured humans and broadcasting it across the galaxy, a warning to anyone who might help Earth's survivors. "They expect us to surrender," she said quietly. "Then they don't know humans." Doyen activated the station-wide comm. His voice echoed through every corridor, reaching every survivor in every hidden base. "This is Commander Doyen. I know you're afraid. I know you've lost everything. Family, friends, homes. The Council thought that would break us. They were wrong." Hyeri watched through the window as people stopped their work to listen, hollow-eyed survivors who had seen too much death. "They tried to destroy us because we're different," Doyen continued. "Because we feel too much. Because we adapt too quickly. Because we don't know when to quit. They were right to fear those things. We're going to show them exactly what humanity becomes when pushed past the breaking point. We're going to survive. We're going to adapt. And we're going to make them pay for every life they took." The message spread through human settlements like fire. People began to move differently, work harder, train longer. The despair was still there, but now it had direction, purpose. Captain Minho arrived at the command center. His ship, the Retribution, had become humanity's most effective weapon. Not because it was powerful, but because he knew how to fight dirty. I've trained 30 teams, Minho reported. They're ready for infiltration operations. We've also modified our ships to look like council vessels, close enough to fool their sensors until we're right on top of them. Yoonji, the combat medic, joined them. She had set up the terror protocol, a systematic approach to psychological warfare. I've studied every council species, she said. Their fears, their weak points. We can't match their numbers, but we can break their will to fight. Doyen looked at his team. Harry, what's the status of the Prometheus project? She hesitated. It's ready. We've weaponized several human viruses and bacteria. They're harmless to us, but deadly to specific council species. The Krillix neural virus is particularly effective. It takes 3 weeks to show symptoms, spreads through simple contact, and has a 90% mortality rate. Will it work? Minho asked. Yes. Hieri's voice was flat. It will kill millions. Maybe billions if it spreads unchecked. The room went silent. They were talking about genocide. The very thing the council had tried to do to humanity. Sir, we're not like them, Yoonji said quietly. If we do this, we become monsters. Doyen's expression did not change. They made us monsters when they killed 9 billion humans. We're using every weapon we have. That's not a choice, it's survival. The first operation launched 2 weeks later. Minho's ship approached a council supply depot at Proxima Station, broadcasting a distress signal. The station, believing all human warships were destroyed, allowed them to dock. Jiho led the infiltration team. He was the best at what he did, moving through enemy territory like a ghost. His team of 30 wore stolen council uniforms and carried forged credentials. They walked onto the station as maintenance workers. The council soldiers barely looked at them. Humans were supposed to be extinct or hiding in fear. They never expected an attack here, at the heart of their supply network. Jiho's team split up. Some sabotaged life support systems. Others poisoned water supplies with Yeri's neurotoxins. The rest planted explosives in critical areas. They worked for 6 hours, methodical and silent. By the time the station realized something was wrong, it was too late. The toxins had spread through the ventilation system. Council personnel started collapsing at their stations, choking on air that burned their lungs. Emergency alarms blared as life support failed in section after section. Jiho's team made it back to the Retribution as explosions tore through the station. They jumped to faster than light speed, leaving 4,000 dying council personnel behind. On every wall of the station, they had painted the same message in alien blood. This is only the beginning. The galaxy's reaction was immediate. Ambassador Telvac appeared on council broadcasts, calling it a terrorist attack by a dying species. He increased patrols but did not change the council's strategy. They still saw humans as weak creatures playing at war. That arrogance was exactly what Doyen wanted. Let them underestimate humanity. Let them think this was desperation instead of strategy. 2 weeks later, a second strike hit a council military academy. Jiho infiltrated the facility and released a biological agent into the dormitories. 300 young officers died screaming. The council called it cowardice. Doyen called it war. A month after that, human ships disguised as council vessels ambushed a patrol fleet. The council lost 12 warships before they understood they were under attack. Not a single human ship was destroyed. Reports started spreading through council space. Stories of humans who refused to die. Attacks that came from nowhere. Weapons that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Fear began to take root, but humanity paid for every victory. Haven Station was discovered and destroyed. 30,000 humans died. Resources were running desperately low. Hiyeri lost her remaining team in a lab accident. The weapons they created were as dangerous to humans as to the enemy. Yoonji watched soldiers break under the weight of what they were ordered to do. She tried to offer counseling, but there were too many and too few hours in the day. Some took their own lives. Others became cold and empty, moving like machines. Are we becoming what we hate?
She asked Doyen one night. He did not look up from his tactical displays.
We're becoming what we need to be to survive. That's all that matters, but survival came at a cost. Earth's population had dropped to 1.5 billion. Starvation killed as many as council bombardments. The underground cities were running out of food, medicine, hope. Then Jiho brought news that changed everything. He had captured council intelligence during a raid. Ambassador Telvac was organizing a summit on the neutral world of Sanctum. All 27 council species would send their leaders. They're gathering to discuss the human problem, Jiho reported. How to finish us off permanently. Minho studied the data. Sanctum is a fortress. Automated defenses, a permanent garrison, shields that could stop a fleet. We'd need an army to breach it. Then we won't use an army, Doyen said. His eyes had the same cold calculation they always held now. We'll use exactly what they don't expect. Jiho, can you get inside? Jiho smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Give me 3 weeks and I can be standing in that summit hall. Hieri understood immediately what Doyen was planning. You want to hold them hostage? All of them. Not hostage, Doyen corrected. I want them to understand what it feels like to be helpless. To know they're going to die and there's nothing they can do to stop it. I want them to feel what 9 billion humans felt. The room fell silent. They all knew what he was asking. A suicide mission. A gamble with humanity's last hope. If they failed, there would be nothing left. Minho spoke first. I'm in. The retribution can make one more run. I'll need time to prepare the right toxin, Hieri said. Something that gives us leverage. Yunji nodded. I'll train the assault team. 50 volunteers. They know it's one way. Jiho cracked his knuckles. 3 weeks to infiltrate the most secure facility in the galaxy. Should be fun. Doyen looked at each of them. His team, the last hope of a dying species. The council thinks we're finished. They're meeting to decide how to wipe out the survivors. We're going to walk into that room and show them the truth. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity doesn't forgive. And humanity will burn the galaxy down before we let them forget what they did to us. Outside the station, Earth hung in space, scarred, burning, but still alive. Still fighting. The planet that birthed humanity would either see its children die or watch them take revenge on those who tried to destroy them. The countdown to Sanctum had begun. The war changed everything. 1 Earth year had passed since the betrayal, and the galaxy no longer recognized the humans they once dismissed as harmless mammals. Council species were learning a terrible lesson about what happened when you tried to exterminate a species that refused to die. Jiho stood in the shadows of a Velkath colony world, watching his target through enhanced optics. General Carveth, the officer who had ordered the attack on Earth's moon base. The crystalline being walked through the market with 4 bodyguards, believing himself safe on his homeworld. He was wrong. Jiho had spent 3 months on this world. He wore contact lenses that changed his eye color, synthetic skin that altered his features, and carried forged documents identifying him as a slave worker. The Velkath barely noticed their servants. That was their mistake. The general entered a private building. Jiho followed at a distance, moving through service corridors that the elite never saw. He found the general in his private chamber, alone for the first time all day. It took 30 seconds. A blade coated with Hieri's newest toxin. The general did not even have time to call for help. Jiho left a small recording device playing the screams of dying children from the moon base. Let them find that. He was off-world before the body was discovered. 3 months. 47 targets. Not just military officers, but their families too. Jiho felt nothing anymore. He had become exactly what the mission required, a weapon in human form. The Velkath Empire panicked. They implemented extreme security measures that crippled their military efficiency. Every officer traveled with full security details. No one trusted anyone. The fear of human infiltrators spread like a disease. Meanwhile, Dr. Hieri's plague ships drifted into Krillax space. They appeared as damaged civilian vessels, broadcasting distress calls. When Krillax patrol ships responded, they found injured survivors barely clinging to life. The Krillax, following their protocols, brought the humans aboard for medical treatment. Those survivors carried a virus designed specifically for Krillax biology. It spread through simple contact, invisible and undetectable for the first 2 weeks. By the time symptoms appeared, entire ships and stations were infected. The virus attacked their neural systems. Victims suffered hallucinations, violent seizures, and eventually brain death. Within a month, 3 Krillax colony worlds faced epidemics. Medical facilities overflowed. Their government begged the council for help. Hieri watched the death counts climb on her screens. Millions of Krillax dying from her creation. She remembered her oath as a doctor. First, do no harm. That person was dead now, burned away in the fires that consumed Earth. The cure existed. She had created it along with the virus. But humanity kept it locked away. Let them suffer. Let them feel helpless. Captain Minho's greatest victory came at Titan's grave. a dead system that the Council used to hide a massive shipyard. Intelligence suggested 73 warships were under construction there. The Council believed it was perfectly concealed. They were wrong. Human scouts had discovered it months ago. Doyen had been planning this strike ever since. The trap was simple. Humans leaked false intelligence about a hidden Earth colony in the system. The Council sent their newest battle fleet to investigate. 73 ships fresh from the shipyard, eager to score their first victory against the human threat. They found the colony easily. It looked abandoned, showing signs of recent habitation. The fleet moved into position surrounding the settlement. That was when Minho gave the order. The colony was not abandoned. It was a weapons platform hiding beneath a holographic shell, and it contained a captured Council antimatter warhead, one of the weapons they had used on Earth's cities. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. 73 warships vanished in a single burst of white light. Humanity lost 8 fighter pilots in the operation. The exchange rate was acceptable. Minho's ship escaped just ahead of the shockwave. As they jumped away, his communications officer picked up the automatic distress beacon he had programmed. It repeated endlessly into the void. "You should have left us alone," but Yunji's work was perhaps the most effective. She understood that physical wounds healed. Psychological wounds lasted forever. Her teams did not just kill, they made sure survivors would never forget. When human forces attacked, they left witnesses. Council soldiers who watched their friends die in ways that haunted their dreams. Officers who returned home broken and unable to speak about what they had seen. Medical staff who tried to treat victims of human biological weapons and contracted the diseases themselves. Stories spread through Council space. Tales of humans who fought with a savagery that civilized species had forgotten. Humans who used biological weapons, who tortured prisoners for information, who targeted civilians without mercy. The galaxy had rules of war. Humanity ignored all of them. Council propaganda broadcasts tried to paint humans as monsters. But the propaganda backfired. If humans were just primitives, why was the mighty Council losing? Why were entire species refusing deployment to human threat zones? Why were soldiers deserting rather than face Earth survivors? 3 minor Council species secretly began peace negotiations with human agents. They had opposed the extermination from the beginning. Now they saw humanity winning and wanted to be on the right side when it ended. But victory came at a terrible price. Earth's population continued to fall. Starvation killed thousands daily. The underground cities were running out of everything: food, medicine, hope. Haven Station's destruction had cost them critical resources. Dr. Hyeri lost her final assistant in a lab accident. The bioweapons they created were as dangerous to handle as they were effective. She worked alone now in a sealed facility, creating increasingly deadly viruses. Sometimes she forgot what her life had been like before the war. Yunji watched human soldiers break under the weight of their actions. Some took their own lives. Others became hollow shells that moved through their duties without feeling. She tried to help them, but there were too many and not enough time. The war was destroying humanity from within even as they won battles. "Are we still human?" she asked Doyen during a late-night strategy session. "After everything we've done?" He looked at her with eyes that held no warmth. "We're survivors. That's all that matters. Those who can't handle it are free to surrender to the Council. I'm sure they'll be merciful." The sarcasm was unnecessary. They all knew what Council mercy looked like. Public executions broadcast across the galaxy. Captain Minho entered the command center with urgent news. "We intercepted Council communications. Ambassador Telvac is calling for a summit. All 27 species. They're gathering on Sanctum to discuss final measures against humanity." Doyen pulled up data on Sanctum, the fortress world in neutral space. Automated defenses that could stop a fleet, a permanent garrison of elite troops. It was the most secure location in the galaxy. "They're meeting to decide how to finish us," Hyeri said quietly. "How to eliminate every last human." Minho studied the tactical data. "It's impossible to attack. We'd need a fleet we don't have. Even if we got past the defenses, the garrison would overwhelm any ground force." "Then we won't attack," Doyen said. His mind was already working through possibilities. "We'll attend the summit as guests." Everyone stared at him. "You want to infiltrate Sanctum?" Jiho said. It was not a question. He was already calculating how to do it. "The Council is gathering every leader in one place," Doyen explained. "All 27 species. If we can take control of that room, we take control of the war." We hold them hostage and dictate our terms. It's suicide, Yunji said. Even if Jiho gets inside, how do we extract him? How do we hold the entire council at gunpoint? Hieri understood immediately. A toxin. Something fast-acting that only affects council species. We poison them all at once, then offer the cure in exchange for our terms. Can you create something like that? Doyen asked. Yes. It will take time, but yes. A multi-species toxin that works through atmospheric distribution. They breathe it in and they have hours to live without the antidote. Minho pulled up the retribution specifications. I can get close enough to launch drop pods. It's a one-way trip. The ship won't survive, but I can get a ground team onto Sanctum. I'll need 3 weeks to infiltrate, Jiho said. 3 weeks to get inside, map security, and plant the toxin dispersal system. I'll train the assault team, Yunji added. 50 volunteers. We'll need people willing to die to hold that room long enough. Doyen looked at each of them, his team, the core of humanity's resistance. They were planning to attack the most secure facility in the galaxy, hold the entire council hostage, and somehow survive long enough to dictate peace terms. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of thing humans did best. The council thinks they're meeting to decide humanity's fate, Doyen said. We're going to show them they were right to fear us. Begin preparations. We have 3 weeks. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the council prepared their final solution for the human problem. They did not know that humanity was preparing its own solution. The countdown to Sanctum had begun. Win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same. Part 4. Jiho walked through the corridors of Sanctum, as if he belonged there. 3 weeks of preparation had led to this moment. He wore the uniform of a Vorath diplomatic aide, carried forged credentials that passed every security check, and moved with the confidence of someone who had every right to be here. The Vorath delegation had no idea one of their staff members was human. Modified DNA markers fooled genetic scanners. Neural implants mimicked alien brain patterns. Pheromone suppressors masked his human scent. The technology was experimental and painful, but it worked. For 3 weeks, Jiho had mapped every corridor, identified every security checkpoint, and documented every weakness. He planted equipment in hidden locations, set up communication relays, prepared escape routes that would never be used. This was a one-way mission and everyone knew it. The summit hall was magnificent. A vast chamber with a ceiling that showed the stars above. 27 delegations sat in a circle, representing every council species. At the center stood Ambassador Telvac, his crystalline body reflecting light in cold, sharp angles. Jiho moved among the support staff, invisible in his borrowed identity. He watched the council leaders gather. These beings controlled the fate of trillions. They had ordered the deaths of 9 billion humans without a second thought. Now they sat comfortably, discussing final measures against Earth survivors. Ambassador Telvac called the session to order. We gathered today to resolve the human threat permanently. Our initial response was clearly insufficient. These primitives have proven surprisingly difficult to eliminate. Surprisingly difficult. Jiho felt cold rage at the casual dismissal. 9 billion dead, Earth burned to ash, humanity scattered and hunted, and they called it surprisingly difficult. The debate began. Some species argued for complete extermination. Find every human settlement and destroy it. Others suggested enslavement, use the survivors as labor. A few proposed quarantine, trap humanity in a dead system and leave them to slowly die. Not one voice advocated for peace. Not one species suggested negotiation. They had decided humanity's fate the day they launched their betrayal, and nothing would change their minds. Jiho activated his hidden communicator. A single pulse, the signal that everything was ready. Light years away, Captain Minho received the signal. All stations, this is it. Final checks. The Retribution hung in deep space, engines powered to maximum. 50 volunteers sat in drop pods, checking weapons and equipment. Yunji moved among them, offering final words. Many were crying. All were determined. You know what this means, Yunji told them. The ship won't survive. We won't make it out. But we're going to hold that room long enough for Commander Doyen to make his broadcast, long enough to show the galaxy that humanity will not surrender. A young soldier raised his hand. Ma'am, will it be enough? Will they remember us? Yunji smiled sadly. The galaxy will never forget. Ready positions. Minho sat in the captain's chair, his ship, his home for 30 years. He was about to ram it into the most defended space station in the galaxy. All hands prepare for jump. May we all find peace on the other side. The retribution vanished into faster-than-light space. On Sanctum, Ambassador Telvac was presenting his final solution protocols when every light in the summit hall went dark. Emergency systems kicked in immediately, bathing the chamber in red emergency lighting. "What is this?" Telvac demanded. Jiho's voice echoed through the chamber. "This is humanity's answer to your final solution." Explosions rocked the station. Jiho's planted charges detonated across critical systems. Alarms screamed. Council guards rushed toward the summit hall. Then the retribution appeared. It dropped out of faster-than-light speed directly above Sanctum's primary defense station. Minho had seconds to aim. He used them well. The impact was catastrophic. The retribution, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, struck the defense station with the force of a small nuclear weapon. Both ships vanished in a ball of expanding plasma. But before the ship died, it launched 50 drop pods. They streaked through Sanctum's atmosphere, targeting the summit hall. Automated defenses tried to respond, but with the primary station destroyed, their coordination was chaos. 43 pods made it through. Yunji's assault team crashed through the reinforced ceiling of the summit hall. They dropped into the chamber wearing combat armor and carrying weapons designed for close-quarters massacre. Council guards opened fire. The humans returned it with brutal efficiency. This was not a battle, it was an execution. Humans fought in confined spaces better than any council species. They were smaller, faster, and willing to die to complete their mission. Yunji led her team in a coordinated assault. They moved like they were one organism, covering each other, advancing through fire that would have stopped any other species. 20 humans died in the first minute. The rest kept fighting. Jiho emerged from his position among the staff. He threw off his disguise and joined the assault. 2 council guards died before they realized the aid they had ignored. For weeks was the infiltrator they had been searching for. The council leaders watched in horror as primitive mammals tore through their elite protectors. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia cowered behind their chairs while humans stormed the most secure facility in known space. Within 5 minutes, the hall was secured. 30 humans remained standing. 50 council guards lay dead or dying. The leaders of 27 species found themselves prisoners in their own summit. The chamber doors sealed. Jiho activated the toxin dispersal system he had installed over 3 weeks. A colorless, odorless gas began flooding the ventilation system. "What have you done?" Ambassador Telvac demanded. Every screen in the summit hall activated. Commander Doyen's face appeared, broadcast simultaneously to the trapped council and the entire galaxy. His expression was ice. "Greetings, council members. You do not know me, but you know my species. You tried to exterminate us. You failed." The council leaders began to feel it, a burning sensation in their respiratory systems. Difficulty breathing. The toxin was fast-acting and engineered to cause maximum pain. "You are breathing a biotoxin designed specifically for council species," Doyen continued. "It is completely harmless to humans, but for you it will be fatal in 6 hours. Extremely painful. You will feel your organs fail one by one. You will suffocate slowly while fully conscious." Panic spread through the chamber. Leaders who had calmly discussed genocide now faced their own mortality. They understood, perhaps for the first time, what it felt like to be helpless. "We have the antidote," Doyen said. "Here are our terms. Immediate ceasefire. All attacks on human settlements stop now. Reparations for every human life lost. Territory for human colonization. Ambassador Telvac surrendered to human justice, and humanity receives a permanent council seat with veto power." Ambassador Telvac struggled to speak through the toxin. "You cannot make demands. We have agents positioned on every council homeworld," Doyen interrupted. "They carry enough of this toxin to infect your entire populations. Try to attack Earth again, and every council species goes extinct. You have 1 hour to accept our terms. Refuse and you all die here. Your species will remember this as the day your leaders chose pride over survival." The chamber descended into chaos. Some demanded attack. Others begged for negotiation. They were dying and they knew it. The mighty council reduced to desperate creatures fighting for survival. Ambassador Telvac tried one last time. He gestured to his remaining guards. "Kill the humans!" "All of them." Jiho moved faster. He crossed the distance in seconds, blade in hand. Ambassador Telvac, architect of humanity's betrayal, died while the galaxy watched. Jiho's expression showed no satisfaction, no anger, just cold efficiency. 30 minutes remaining, Doyun announced. Choose. The council leaders felt death approaching. Their breathing became labored. Blood vessels burst in their eyes. The toxin was doing exactly what Hieri had designed it to do, cause maximum suffering. With 15 minutes remaining, the Krillax delegation broke first. We accept your terms. Others followed quickly. Species that had participated in the betrayal now begged for mercy. Proud civilizations that ruled entire sectors reduced to pleading with the species they had tried to exterminate. With 5 minutes remaining, even the Velkath Empire capitulated. We accept. All terms. Please, the antidote. Doyun's face remained expressionless. The antidote will be administered once all forces cease fire against human targets. Our agents will verify compliance. Any violation, and the toxin releases on your homeworlds. You tried to exterminate us. You failed. Now you live by our mercy. Jiho activated the antidote dispersal. A different gas flooded the ventilation system. Within minutes, the council leaders felt their symptoms ease. They would survive. But they would never forget this moment. Yunji stood guard with her remaining team. 17 humans left alive. They had stormed the most secure facility in the galaxy, killed hundreds of elite guards, and held the entire council hostage. The mission was complete. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The species they had dismissed as primitive mammals had just dictated terms to the most powerful government in known space. Humanity had won. But as Yunji looked at the bodies of her fallen comrades, she wondered what they had become to achieve this victory. What humanity had sacrificed to survive. The war was over. Commander Doyun stood at the viewport, watching council ships arrive for the ceremony. Each vessel carried leaders who had begged for their lives in that summit hall. Now they came to acknowledge what they had tried to destroy. The terms were harsh. Humanity received complete sovereignty over the Sol system, and 3 additional colonizable worlds. 10 trillion credits in reparations, advanced technology transfers, a formal apology admitting to attempted genocide. Most importantly, permanent council membership with veto power. The galaxy still reeled from the shock. A species written off as extinct had forced the superpower to surrender. Some council species were quietly relieved. They had opposed the extermination but lacked power to stop it. Others seethed with resentment, viewing humans as terrorists who violated every rule of civilized warfare. Doyun did not care about their opinions. He watched the signing ceremony with empty eyes. Victory felt hollow. His daughter was still dead. Earth was still scarred. 9 billion humans were still gone. After the ceremony, he submitted his resignation. Earth's new civilian government accepted it without argument. The man who saved humanity could not live with what he had done to achieve it. Doyun took a small transport to Mars. The colony was being rebuilt, and he volunteered for construction work. Manual labor. 16-hour days. Anything to stop thinking. 2 years later, workers found him dead in his quarters. Natural causes, the report said. Those who knew him understood it was something else. He had simply stopped wanting to live. Dr. Hieri continued her work, but the weapons research stopped. She turned her skills toward medicine again, trying to heal instead of harm. But late at night, she dreamed of the billions who died from her creations. The Krillax children who suffocated from her virus. The council personnel who burned alive from her toxins. She established a medical clinic on Earth, treating survivors for free. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was all she could do to balance the scales. Captain Minho did not survive Sanctum. His sacrifice became legend. The man who rammed the Retribution into the galaxy's most secure station, buying humanity the seconds it needed to win. Earth's new defense fleet named their flagship after him. But his family was gone, killed in the initial bombardment, so there was no one to attend the memorial. Jiho took command of Earth's intelligence service. He was perfect for the role, a ghost who could move through any environment, trust no one, and make the hard choices. But he never formed relationships, never let anyone close. The man who saved humanity at Sanctum became a shadow that people whispered about but never knew. Yunji survived the assault on Sanctum. She was one of 17 who made it out alive. The experience broke something inside her. She became humanity's loudest voice for reconciliation, arguing that continued hatred would destroy what remained of human souls. She established counseling centers for survivors, worked with both human and alien victims of the war. Many humans saw her as weak. She did not care. Someone had to remember that they were supposed to be better than their enemies. Earth itself was recovering. The population stabilized at 1.2 billion, 7 billion dead. Oceans were slowly being cleaned. Forests were being replanted. Cities rose from the ruins. But the scars remained, both on the planet and in the survivors' minds. The pre-war optimistic humanity was gone forever. The survivors were hard, suspicious, and ready for violence at any moment. They had learned that the galaxy was not safe, that trust led to betrayal, that mercy was weakness. Children born after the war grew up hearing stories of the betrayal. They learned combat training alongside mathematics. They studied alien biology to understand weaknesses. They were raised to be warriors because their parents never wanted them to be helpless again. The New Earth Defense Fleet became the most feared military force in the galaxy. Human warships patrolled space with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. When human vessels entered a system, piracy stopped. When human diplomats entered negotiations, everyone listened. At the first council session with human representation, the galaxy watched nervously. Captain Minho had been named Earth's ambassador, a war hero taking a political role. He walked into the council chambers wearing his military uniform, not diplomatic robes. The message was clear. His first speech became famous across human space. He stood before the assembled council and spoke without notes. "We came to you in peace 50 years ago. We offered partnership and friendship. You responded with attempted genocide. You tried to exterminate us because we frightened you, because we adapted too quickly, because we refused to accept our place at the bottom of your hierarchy." The council chambers were silent. No one dared interrupt. "You saw what we became when pushed to extinction, what we did to survive, the biological weapons, the assassinations, the terror tactics. We violated every rule of civilized warfare because you left us no choice. We showed you what humans are capable of when desperate." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "Pray you never see what we're capable of when we're strong. We will participate in this council. We will trade, negotiate, and cooperate, but never mistake our willingness to coexist for weakness. Humanity does not forgive. We do not forget, and we will never allow ourselves to be vulnerable again. Challenge us at your peril." No one responded. What could they say? The threat was clear and backed by demonstrated capability. Minor species began demanding reforms. If humans could challenge the council and win, why couldn't others? The old order was crumbling. The Velkath Empire, humiliated and weakened, withdrew from leadership. Internal conflicts tore it apart as subordinate species saw their chance for independence. Peace held, but it was cold peace built on fear rather than trust. Humanity rebuilt rapidly. Their population grew. Their technology advanced beyond council levels. Some aliens whispered that they had created a worse problem, a vengeful species now strong enough to threaten everyone. On Earth, a memorial was built at the site where the first council bomb had fallen. It was a massive structure of black stone, listing every name of the 9 billion dead. At the center, a simple inscription: "They tried to exterminate us. They failed. This is why we fight, not for glory, not for conquest, but so this can never happen again. Remember the fallen. Honor the survivors. Never surrender." Jiho visited the memorial late one night. He stood before the wall bearing his family's names. His parents, his sister, her 2 children, all gone in the bombardment. A young officer approached him, new recruit fresh from training. "Sir, do you think it's over?" "The war." Jiho did not look away from the names. "Wars like that never end. They just pause. The council will rebuild. Other species will rise. Threats will come. But they'll remember what happened. They'll remember that humanity doesn't fight fair, doesn't give up, and doesn't forgive. Maybe that's enough to keep the peace. Or maybe we just bought ourselves time before the next war," the young officer said quietly. "Maybe," Jiho agreed. "But we'll be ready. We learned our lesson. We'll never be caught off guard again." The officer looked uncertain. Was it worth it? Everything we did? Everything we became? Jiho finally turned, his expression unreadable. "Ask the 9 billion dead. They don't get to answer. We survived. That has to be enough. He walked away, leaving the young officer staring at the wall of names. Behind them, Earth continued its slow recovery. Cities rose. Children played. Life went on, but it was different now. Humanity had been forged in fire and emerged as something new. Not the optimistic explorers who first joined the Council. Not the naive species that believed in galactic brotherhood. They were survivors. Warriors. A species that had stared into extinction and refused to blink. In the council chambers, human representatives attended meetings with cold efficiency. They voted on trade agreements and territory disputes. They participated in the machinery of galactic government. But everyone understood the truth. Humanity was no longer seeking acceptance. They were enforcing respect through fear. The galaxy had learned what humans were capable of when pushed past desperation. No one wanted to discover what they could do when fully strong. Dr. Hyeri gave a lecture to medical students one afternoon. After describing techniques for treating radiation poisoning, a student raised her hand. "Doctor, is it true you created the bioweapons that killed millions of Krillax?" The room went silent. Hyeri met the student's eyes. "Yes, I did. I broke my oath as a physician. I created weapons of mass destruction. I caused suffering beyond measure. Do you regret it?" Another student asked. Hyeri was quiet for a long moment. "Every day. But I would do it again. Because the alternative was extinction. We did what we had to do to survive. Now we live with the consequences." That was the truth all survivors carried. They had done terrible things. Violated every principle they once held sacred. But they were alive. Earth was rebuilding. Humanity had a future. Whether that future was better or worse than extinction, that was a question no one could answer. Years passed. Human ships patrolled the galaxy. Human colonies spread to new worlds. Human scientists made breakthrough discoveries. The species that nearly died was thriving again, but they never forgot. Every child learned about the betrayal. Every soldier trained for the day when humanity might face extinction again. Every diplomat operated from a position of strength, never vulnerability.